The 27th of August, 1979. A fireball rips through the serene waters off the coast of Ireland, turning a summer's day into hell on earth. The royal yacht, Debauchery, evaporates in a cloud of fire and smoke, shattering into a million razor-sharp splinters of wood and twisted metal. A mutilated body is pulled from the blood-red sea. It is a pillar of the British Empire, a hero of the realm, but his legs have been blown clean off by an explosion of unimaginable force. It is Lord Louis Mountbatten, uncle to the Queen's husband and adored mentor to the future King of England, Prince Charles. The Irish Republican Army immediately claims responsibility, a brutal, uncompromising act of terror. But the truth of his life, buried in declassified FBI files, reveals a man who was not a saint, but a sinner of the highest order, a master of deception. The bomb that killed him was an act of war, but the secrets he took to his grave were an explosion of a different kind, one that threatened to bring down the monarchy itself from within. But to understand how a prince of the blood and a hero of the nation ended up as mangled flesh in the cold waters of the Irish Sea, we must go back to the very beginning. We must travel to a world of unimaginable privilege and absolute power, a world where the rules made for ordinary people never applied. Louis Mountbatten was born into the very heart of European royalty, his veins filled with blue blood, and his godmother was Queen Victoria herself. He was fabulously handsome, incredibly charming, and seemed destined by fate itself for greatness and glory. Society saw him as a flawless idol, a war hero, a man whose chest was laden with medals and honors, a living symbol of indestructible British might. He was the perfect cover story aristocrat, a flawless gentleman admired by the entire nation. But behind this shining facade hid a cold, calculating mind and an ambition that knew no bounds. He married not the woman, but her fortune, her power, her connections. His bride was Edwina Ashley, an heiress with a fortune that could buy entire kingdoms, and with an equally insatiable lust for life. Together, they were the perfect power couple, the object of burning envy and admiration throughout high society. Their names whispered in every salon from London to Delhi. They were young, beautiful, rich, and utterly ruthless in their pursuit of pleasure and influence. They created a flawless public image, a diamond-bright facade of aristocratic duty and family bliss. But behind the tightly closed doors of their countless palaces and estates, a decadent, sweet rot had long since settled in and taken deep root. Their marriage was not a union of hearts, but a cold business arrangement. Their marriage was a carefully crafted fiction, nothing more than a cold, calculated agreement between two predators, which they cynically called an open marriage. In reality, it was not freedom, but a license for total debauchery, an unspoken pact to indulge their darkest, most forbidden appetites while maintaining an outward appearance for the sake of the crown. They understood that they were stronger together and gave each other permission for betrayal. Edwina quickly became an infamous figure, a legend of London high society. Her endless, unconcealed affairs earned her the caustic nickname "bedhopper" among the whispering elites. She had dozens, if not hundreds, of lovers, from Hollywood stars to Indian Maharajas, the most famous of whom was Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India. Her scandalous trail stretched across continents, and she reveled in her freedom, turning marital infidelity into an act of public defiance. But while the world watched Lady Mountbatten's sexual escapades with fascination and condemnation, it was overlooking the far more dangerous, far more explosive secrets of her husband. For decades, a poisonous, persistent rumor had crept through the velvet corridors of power, through the halls of Buckingham Palace and the Admiralty, a whisper about Lord Mountbatten's own, rather unusual tastes. He thought he was invulnerable, but the trap had already been set. He was the last Viceroy of India, a man who decided the fates of millions, a decorated naval commander, strategist, and diplomat. He was also, according to a secret, almost mythical FBI dossier compiled back in the 1940s, a man of exceedingly low morals, whose proclivities alarmed even hardened counterintelligence agents. Rumors were one thing, but now the American government was building a case against him, gathering compromising material on one of the most powerful men in the world. Pages filled with venom capable of destroying his impeccable reputation. This dossier contained accusations that were pure dynamite, allegations directly linking the Queen's cousin, a national hero, to young boys. The files spoke of his penchant for boys in uniform and of his reputation in the darkest circles of society. Although these shocking claims were never tested in court, and could not be due to his status, the thick, suffocating smoke from them shrouded him until the very end of his life. His status, his immaculate naval uniform, his royal blood, all of it was an indestructible shield behind which he hid his true nature. He was said to be a regular at shadowy, clandestine clubs, those secret places in London and Malta where the elite could cast off their public masks and indulge in the most forbidden debauchery without fear. He surrounded himself with hand-picked, handsome young men, often in immaculate naval uniforms, and his unquestionable authority as a commander served as the perfect cover for his predatory inclinations. He was an unsurpassed master of manipulation, not only of fleets and empires, but also of human souls, of their destinies. He was not just a hedonist seeking pleasure. He was a puppet master who pulled the invisible strings at the very heart of the House of Windsor. He facilitated the most crucial royal marriages, including the marriage of his own nephew, the penniless Greek prince Philip, to the future Queen Elizabeth II, thereby forever changing the course of history. He wove himself into the very fabric of the monarchy, like a spider, positioning his pawns on the chessboard of power, strengthening his influence with every move. He was playing a very long game, a game for absolute power, where morality was merely a bargaining chip. His ambitions extended far beyond personal sexual pleasures. He sought to shape the future of the entire dynasty, ensuring that his blood, his will, and his influence would flow through the veins of future monarchs. He saw Prince Charles, his great-nephew, not merely as a boy, but as clay from which a king could be molded in his own image. This potent mix of personal, almost pathological debauchery and ice-cold political calculation made him a truly dangerous, unpredictable, and powerful figure. He had spent his entire long life playing with fire, indulging his every dark whim and skillfully hiding his true inclinations behind the impenetrable shield of the crown and public adoration. But now, in the twilight of his life, in that hot summer of 1979, a very different, real fire awaited him. At the age of 79, he was a living legend, a revered patriarch, the honorary grandfather of the next king, Charles, who saw him as a demigod. He considered himself invincible, untouchable, a god among mortals to whom all was permitted. He was vacationing at his castle, Classybon, in Ireland, a place of harsh, wild beauty and hidden, deadly dangers. This region was a veritable hotbed of activity for the Irish Republican Army, a ruthless paramilitary group waging a bloody guerrilla war against the British state. Mountbatten, as the ultimate symbol of British imperial power, was a marked, prime target. He had been repeatedly, insistently warned that his life was in mortal danger, but he merely scoffed arrogantly at the thought of protection. Arrogance, which had become second nature, was his fatal weakness. He defiantly refused police protection for his boat. He was Lord Mountbatten. He genuinely believed he was invulnerable. On the night before August 27th, while the master of the castle slept soundly and serenely in his silk sheets, a swift shadow flickered in the dense coastal darkness. An IRA operative named Thomas McMahon, an explosives expert, silently slipped onto the unguarded royal boat, the Shadow Via, as it bobbed at the pier. He carried with him a 50-pound package of pure, concentrated destruction. With surgical precision, he carefully placed a radio-controlled bomb beneath the deck, a sleeping monster, patiently awaiting its deadly signal. Now the trap was set, not with whispers and rumors, but with 50 pounds of powerful explosives. The next morning was clear, sunny, and deceptively bright. Lord Mountbatten, in high spirits, decided to go lobster potting, a simple, almost pastoral, idyllic family outing. He gathered his family, including his daughter Patricia, her husband Lord Brabourne, and their 14-year-old twin son, Nicholas. Lord Brabourne's 83-year-old mother, Lady Brabourne, also joined them, as did a local 15-year-old boy, Paul Maxwell, who was helping on the boat. It was a perfect picture of summer tranquility, a loving grandfather taking his grandson and his family for a carefree trip on the water. From the high cliffs towering over the harbor, Thomas McMahon watched the scene intently. He saw the small fishing boat cast off from the jetty, a happy aristocratic family heading towards their inevitable doom. He held a small radio transmitter tightly in his hand. He waited for the Shadow View to leave the quiet harbor, to be in the open sea, a vulnerable target. Then, with the cold, detached precision of a soldier carrying out an order, he pressed the button. The explosion was apocalyptic. One moment there was a boat, the next, a deafening, eardrum-shattering roar and a blinding fireball that shot hundreds of feet into the air, visible for miles. Witnesses on the shore would later describe in horror the nightmarish rain of debris, splintered wood, twisted metal, and most horrifically, human remains, falling from the sky into the calm waters of the bay. The Shadow Vise did not sink. It was literally atomized, blown to smithereens in less than a single second. The force of the blast was unimaginable, calculated for total annihilation. Mountbatten's 14-year-old grandson, Nicholas Knatchbull, was killed instantly, his body torn apart. The 15-year-old boat hand, Paul Maxwell, was also obliterated in an instant. The elderly Lady Brabourne, having suffered horrific injuries, died in hospital the next day, and Lord Mountbatten, the great war hero, strategist, and aristocrat, was found floating in the water, somehow still alive. But his body was mutilated beyond recognition. His legs were simply gone. He died a few agonizing moments after being pulled from the sea, his long life of unimaginable privilege, power, and dark secrets ending in a storm of inhuman violence and terror. The news shook the world to its core. The royal family was utterly devastated. Prince Charles, who had idolized Mountbatten as a father figure, was grief-stricken, writing in his diary that he had lost his honorary grandfather, and the world would never be the same for him. The entire nation mourned its hero, brutally murdered by ruthless terrorists. His funeral was a grand, final imperial spectacle of power and grief, a last tribute to the last great icon of a bygone British Empire. The whole world watched as a sainted martyr was laid to rest. But a funeral, no matter how grand and lavish, cannot bury the truth forever. In the years that followed his violent death, the official narrative began to slowly but inexorably shift. The focus of public attention shifted from his heroic martyrdom to the dark, decadent, and shocking secrets of his private life. Biographers and investigators, no longer constrained by his influence, began to peel back the thick layers of propaganda, revealing the true, shocking extent of the Mountbatten decadence. The flawless mask of the hero began to crack, and then to crumble into dust. He emerged in the public eye, not as a selfless public servant, but as a ruthless, cynical operator who used his royal connections to manipulate the monarchy for his own boundless power. He pushed and prodded, arranging marriages and whispering poisonous advice into the ears of princes and future kings, all to secure his own immortal legacy. Rumors of his dark sexual proclivities, once confined to high society gossip and secret government files, grew into a deafening roar that could no longer be ignored. So who was he really? A hero who led India to independence and wisely mentored a future king? Or a monster who hid his monstrous debauchery behind a wall of medals and a cynical, loveless marriage? He was a man who lived by rules completely separate from the rest of the world, sincerely believing that his status, his blood, made him invincible. In a final, cruel irony of fate, the man whose decadent lifestyle threatened to rot the monarchy from within was ultimately destroyed by an external enemy of the crown. His magnificent tomb in Westminster Abbey stands as a monument to a hero, but whispers in the corridors of history tell another, much more terrible story. A story of secrets and lies, of power and perversion, a story that, even decades later, refuses to be buried. An IRA bomb destroyed his body, but it was his own secrets that blew up his legacy from within, leaving behind only the ruins of a myth.